Looking at double-digit rain in many places, so that threat will go well inland here. The rain's already begun here in South Florida. It's accompanied with a severe weather threat. You can see where all the watches and warnings are currently.
Absolutely. And then we get a look at the storm in the floor, a much different storm than what we saw, 36 hours ago? I mean, this is a very well-organized, very clear eye and a strengthening storm here now in our latest advisory.
We've gone through 2 rounds of rapid intensification with this. Yesterday, you couldn't see. Now you can clearly see that. Today, the West Coast certainly is bracing for the approach of Ian with the hurricane warnings that are in effect right now. We've got crews from the Tampa St. Pete area all the way down through the Keys for you.
Yeah, tropical storm warnings that continue around Key West. We're going to get in with Felicia Combs in just a moment. She's there where they've got high water. Paul Goodlow's in Clearwater. And by the way, we've got teams all across the state to bring you the very latest on this storm. It doesn't end there. By the way, we'll be looking at portions of the southeast dealing with some coastal flooding. This is a look at the traffic in the Tampa area. This is I-4, and you can see everybody's leaving. So the traffic is slow, but it's moving. A lot of people heeding those evacuation orders, and we're hearing more and more of those added today. Also hearing about airports shutting down operations. So they want everybody to begin to get to that safe spot. Time is running out to prepare, hopefully, those last-minute shopping trips, those last-minute home updates, whether you're putting up the plywood, gathering things around the yard. That needs to be done. Here's what we know about Hurricane Ian at this hour. Hillsborough County, that includes Tampa, they're under a mandatory evacuation for Zone A and a voluntary evacuation for Zone B, all by 9 o'clock tonight. Evacuations are also mandatory for Zones A, B, and C in Pinellas County right now. And evacuations began this morning in Manatee County. Head to floridadisaster.org/evacuation orders for the very latest information in your county and how to find your evacuation zone. All right, Mike, let's get the very latest on that newest advisory.
All right, a couple of things that are of note. The winds have gone up a little bit in response to the pressure dropping. So as pressure's dropping, the storm is actually intensifying, okay? So the pressure's now dropped to 955 millibars. Correspondingly, the winds have gone up an extra 5 miles per hour here. So 120 mile per hour, Category 3 hurricane. And the location right now, 265 miles south of Sarasota, Florida, and headed off to the north here. So a lot of concern here on the west coast of Florida. If you take a look at where the hurricane warnings are, that's Tampa down past Fort Myers here. Then we have tropical storm warnings from Naples, southbound from there. And we have tropical storm watches. That does include Miami, the Fort Lauderdale area. And then actually those tropical storm watches go all the way up to the panhandle of Florida, then up through coastal Georgia as well. Here's a look at that 5-day forecast cone, and you can see where it heads here with an anticipated potential landfall between Fort Myers and Tampa tomorrow evening. Maybe around sunset or just after sunset, that could be a major hurricane at landfall. Then coming inland from there could be impacts that go into Orlando, in Jacksonville, Savannah, Atlanta, Columbia, Charlotte. All these places could feel the effects of this hurricane. It's a well-formed hurricane, very annular in shape, donut hole right in the center of that. So yesterday you couldn't see that. You certainly can today. So a very big threat for us here along the west coast of Florida. Storm surge is already there in the Keys right now. We've got some overwash in Key West. We're going to take you to Felicia Combs in just a moment. We've got the flow that's in just like this, and so that's why we're getting the water coming in, even though we're now going toward low tide. We've also got some really rough surf here on the east coast of Florida with the flow in this direction, but ultimately it's going to be the right front quadrant coming in here to southwest Florida. It's going to create that life-threatening storm surge, but with a 120 mile per hour Category 3 right now, potential more intensification. Wind will become a major player, and power outages could be extensive across south and central Florida. Here's a look at the winds right now. It's breezy, but it's not extreme just yet. Naples gust to 23. Fort Myers, our winds are offshore at 16. And Tampa, light winds at 8 miles per hour. These winds will go up exponentially here over the next 24 hours. There's a look at the wind shear. Most of that is off to the west and to the north here, although that may come into play about a day or so from now. And we think that could add to some weakening, but that may not happen until after landfall, or maybe right at landfall. But the thing about that is all the effects will still be baked in at that point. So don't think that because it could encounter wind shear near landfall that, oh, we won't really get much storm surge anymore. That's already going to be accounted for. The winds might come down just a hair, but I still think we'll be dealing with a major hurricane at landfall. There's a look at the forecast. Wednesday evening, we could be looking at a landfall with winds around 125 miles per hour. Land interaction after that, as it comes inland, will begin to bring it down in intensity. There again is a look at that eye. It is so well formed right now. Just now coming off the coast of Cuba. They had a really rough blow there, but it didn't really do much as far as reducing the intensity of this. But life-threatening storm surge is what we know right now. Hurricane force winds expected to reach the west coast here by tomorrow morning. Danger of life-threatening storm surge all along Florida's southwest coast here. So the time to prepare is almost coming to a close. We're getting to a point now, Alex, where you pretty much are going to have to be where you want to be. And we noticed the traffic there on I-4, say Ybor City, Tampa, all the way over toward Winston. I mean, it's a traffic jam right now. Things are going slow, so you need to get to your spot today.
But at least it's dry. You don't want to get out there on the roads when things start to get bad and go, ooh, maybe I should have gone now.
The rain's coming north.
Yeah, that's when you find yourself in trouble. Well, for more on the storm, I want to bring in Michael Brennan, acting deputy director with the National Hurricane Center. Obviously, we've got a major hurricane on our hands, and we've got a very vulnerable part of the Florida coastline. Here as we are now, approaching one day out from landfall, what are the most important messaging pieces you're getting out there?
Are you tired of overpaying for TV services? Can't figure out VPNs?
You've been asked to evacuate,
Constantly missing your favorite TV
vulnerable
shows?
storm surge,
No access to
storm
good stuff
surge
on streaming
locations that are
services?
prone to storm
The
surge along the
frustration
Florida
is
West
real,
Coast.
but it doesn't
You're
have
going
to
to want to be where you're going to ride out the storm by tonight, because tropical storm conditions are going to arrive first on the southwest coast of Florida later this evening, and then overnight. We're already seeing rain bands move in. It's going to be increasingly hard to get out. You don't want to wait too long until you start to see the water rise and maybe your evacuation routes cut off, or you can't get to a safe place.
Michael, let's dig down into the meteorology of this hurricane. What are you seeing with the structure of? What does the satellite tell you? What information are you getting from the hurricane hunters?
Well, yeah, everything we see this afternoon suggests that, unfortunately, Ian is starting to strengthen again. We have this very classical look of a major hurricane on satellite imagery. We see the eye warming and clearing out in the infrared imagery, the very cold cloud tops with the ring of intense thunderstorm activity around the eye. We're seeing the pressures fall from the aircraft. As soon as the storm moved off the coast of Cuba, we've seen the pressure fall several millibars already this afternoon. So unfortunately, it looks like the storm is going to take advantage of that very favorable environment and go on and intensify. We're expecting it to be a Category 4 hurricane as it approaches the west coast of Florida, and not expecting a whole lot of weakening. And that's pretty much a worst case scenario for storm surge here. You have a major hurricane moving toward the Florida west coast, which is already vulnerable, and then slowing down as it makes landfall, which is going to exacerbate the storm surge threat, prolong the wind hazard, and lead to very, very heavy rainfall flooding that we're going to see not only along the coast, but inland across much of the peninsula.
For a lot of folks in this area, Charlie's kind of the the storm of memory. What are we looking at in terms of this one? Do you think surge is going to be the biggest threat? And I know the size is going to be much different than Charlie.
Yeah, this is a very different hurricane than Charlie. It's much bigger. Charlie was very, very tiny, very, very intense. It had a intense storm surge.
Been anywhere close to in years. Hurricane Matthew was forecast to make landfall somewhere around the Melbourne area. So we decided we'd set up shop right there. It was on top of that bridge that we got the 75 mile an hour, around 120 to 130 kilometer an hour winds. And that was just rocking the car. It was just absolutely incredible.
Hold on, Mark! Hold on!
It's been a very long time since I've been in full hurricane force gusts. And boy, did Matthew ever let us know that it was a full-on